Hello all, and welcome to Hockey on Tap podcast. This is episode 55, Singin the Blues. Obviously, also Caps, see you later. I am your host, Bill Dean. Of course, we're here with my three co-hosts, Little Steve, Schwim, and Sam Wu. We are brought to you by Primetime Radio, courtesy of Sam Wu himself. And you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Please leave us a 5-star review if you'd be so kind. Boys, what you drinking? Schwim, what are you drinking?
I didn't get the notes.
What?
Where are the notes?
Are we live? Are we live?
We're live? Oh, we're live.
Wait, are we on?
I didn't get the notes.
I don't know my name.
What's my name for the podcast?
You are Shorts
Who
guy.
Who is this?
That is a better looking Michael Sandillo. Cat.
Melvin.
Guys,
we have a cat.
We're freeballing it today. We are just hanging loose.
I'm quite literally freeballing
it.
You're curious.
I had a busy weekend, and I'm looking to buy a house and all this other, crazy stuff. And
what?
I didn't do any notes.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
I mean, we're looking all over Randolph and Whippany and East Hanover area and Flopo, and it's just
giving out his address.
It's been fun. No, I didn't give out the address.
Hey, my parents' house is for sale.
Ooh, nice. Is it a 4-bedroom?
Yeah. Yes, it is actually.
Is it a nice place to have a man cave? I need a man cave.
Yeah,
as you can see, this man cave. All throughout here, I have stuff galore. I actually had people come down here for the first time. They're like, "Holy crap, dude!" And they're just going through. I have sticks and balls and lots of stuff.
Balls.
I'll send you the link.
This is riveting.
I'll send you the link.
Send us the link. Hopefully that's not the one I poo-pooed. That'd be really awkward, Sam. No. But yeah, so looking, I might even have my kids just be the star of Randolph hockey. I mean, who knows? Anything can happen right now. But yeah, so I mean, we're just gonna hang out, talk some hockey. We got 5 games on tonight. Right now you have the Islanders and Penguins tied 1-1. The end of one, we have Pittsburgh. We have Tampa and Florida just starting. Toronto and Montreal are going right now. I didn't see that score of that game, even though I just had it on. What was the score of that game? Was it zeros?
It was 1-1, wasn't it?
It was 1-1. Okay. Then later on tonight, we got Edmonton trying to stave off elimination from my Winnipeg Jets, who I called
your Winnipeg Jets.
North.
Oh, it's 0-0. Sorry.
It's 0-0. Okay. And then last but not least, the Wild try to hold off the Golden Knights. They are also down 3-1, but we'll get into all these series. Obviously, 2 teams that are out, the Caps and the Blues, which, I said Colorado would run train all over the Blues, and they did. They destroyed them. I know, games were close in terms of score, but they controlled possession. They had just everything going for them. And, even from the Nazem Kadri 8-game suspension, which we can actually, we'll do Blues and Avalanche right now. I mean, it makes sense. But, Kadri has that bad hit on Justin Falk where he targets his head. That turns into an 8-game suspension, which I was listening to a lot of people talk about this and analyzing the hit, and everyone thought, hey, they'd give him, 1 or 2 games because that's just how the Department of Player Safety is. They're just, reckless and ridiculous in terms of their suspension packages, but they actually divvied what I thought was a very good suspension for a player that's, that's done this a couple times. He finally, gets his comeuppance. He gets 8 games. Steve, we were talking about it, right? How many games does he have played in the playoffs versus been suspended in the playoffs?
So currently, now, he has 19 playoff games played and 16 playoff games suspended for.
That's amazing. Half your playoff career is on the bench.
That is I'll bring up my calculator here, a 84% suspension rate. 84% suspension rate.
It's below.
I like the 8 games. I'm totally fine with the 8 games.
Did we do the drinks yet?
No, we didn't. We are so. This is just how.
This is unbelievable
right now.
Get back. Where are my notes?
I mean, no one wrote him up, so I was like, fine, let's just do it. All right, so I'll go first, actually. We'll just totally go off the rails. I'll go first. By Bradley Brew Project, I'm going Quiet in the Castle. It is a stout with liquid cocoa, vanilla, caramel, and milk sugar. Not for Steve. So sorry, gay. But
shocking.
Yep, shocking. So not too bad. And let's see, first taste. It's got the cocoa. Yeah. Schwim's already yelling at his TV, so that's and by the way, Schwim is off camera. He is watching the start of the first period, Vassal FC with a save. He's already yelling, and we will have that throughout the podcast, and then he will eventually join us in the middle.
He's actually in his room too, so if you hear him, that's
loud.
You know he's being loud.
Yeah. What are you drinking, Esteban?
I am. Parker Murray gave me this beer the other night. It's Cali Creamen, which I've actually had before, by Mother Earth Brew Company, which is a vanilla cream ale brewed with vanilla beans. And there's actually, although it is a cream ales do not have lactose. They're just brewed in a specific way that makes them have like a creamy texture to it. So vegan. Says it even on Barnivore. Barnivore.
Ooh. I like that.
Daniel, this is a, if Melvin would get out of the way, Schwim's substitute for the night is his alter ego, which is just a piece of poop. A big pile of crap with some headphones on it, complete with sunglasses. So
hopefully Midge isn't watching this, because I was like, I'm going to be on the podcast later with your son. He's obviously showing his worth right now. So
I don't know. I don't know that she's. Oh, Schwim's yelling. So that's the thing. Tampa scored.
Tampa scored. It is 1-0 on. It looks like, who was that? Is that Gord? No, it was Colton. Ross Colton, who fills in for the ever lovely Barclay Goudreau. Coming down the wing, awesome play-by-play right here. Coleman just digs for a puck. Colton just goes right to the net. Pretty good goal. So Schwim is happy, and hopefully
you should never do play-by-play or become a color analyst.
It was amazing. I just did that.
That was your audition right there, and you just disappointed the world.
Yeah. I mean, what were we talking about? I don't even. We're doing beers.
Sam, what are you drinking?
Yeah, what are you drinking, Sam?
Nobody gave me the show notes, so I forgot.
Oh, you don't even have a beer.
I forgot we were supposed to drink.
You gotta go find something. Yeah, I tell you, one day I don't do a show sheet, and this entire podcast goes off the rails. So, Sam, it looks like he's gonna go get a beer. All right, so on Facebook Live, Elizabeth with ask him about packing up the man cave. It's gonna be a disaster. I don't even know where to start with getting rid of and packing this stuff into a box, because you got to show your house now, and
it's so overwhelming. There's so much stuff.
I want to throw up. And then when you put down an offer for a house, which we actually just did, and they tell you, oh yeah, so this is what you're going to put down, and this is how much is coming out of your bank account. You're like, oh, excuse me while I go throw up and enjoy myself the rest of the night. Dan, like we said, hi.
Somebody scored for Pittsburgh.
Who do you want to win? Brian Rust. Good job, buddy.
Well, Daniel, you know who I want to win the cup. I think you know who Schwim wants to win the cup. But if you wanted to ask us if our teams are eliminated, if Pittsburgh loses to the Islanders, and Schwim will probably give his input, who do I want to win the cup besides Pittsburgh? I'm going to say Vegas, because I am rooting for Marc-Andre Fleury to win his 4th Stanley Cup.
Yeah. So I obviously do not have a dog in the fight. Rangers being eliminated, not even in the playoffs. Who would I want? I mean, I do like Tampa, but they won last season, so I'm not going to root for them this season. I've always been Colorado. I used to live in Colorado, so that's my second team if you really have those. So I'll say Colorado, but I do like Vegas a lot. I wouldn't be surprised, unhappy if they win. I also wouldn't, let's put it this way. The teams I don't want to win are any team in the East, and I'm sorry, Steve.
I expect it,
and that's just because you've won so much. And hey, Mickey, like I said, pretty much any team in the East I don't want to win, especially the Islanders. I don't want the Islanders. I can't. And Boston, I'm sick and tired of them. Anytime in this team in the South, I wouldn't care. I mean, Florida's not obviously going to make it. Nashville's not going to make it. Carolina, Tampa, sure.
Oh yeah, they're not going to, but they could beat Carolina. It's a crazy. They shouldn't, but it's crazy.
No,
it's a crazy series.
True. Yeah, 2-2. In the North, I don't think Montreal is going to win past or beat Toronto.
I just like the North just isn't good.
No, it's not. But I've actually been pretty impressed with what Winnipeg has done, especially to an offense like Edmonton. And I know it's two guys, and it's hard to beat. But you even saw those two guys in last night's game. They actually played well. They had 4 points between the two of them. I mean, they had points on each goal for Edmonton, and you could see that obviously when they go, their team goes, but they have no defense, and it's amazing. And any team can score on them.
Do we want to talk about Edmonton while we're talking about it? Because I got some things to say about Edmonton.
No, let's. I mean, we were actually talking about Colorado and the Blues, which we'll go back to because
we'll get back to that one.
Yeah, so let's do Edmonton and Winnipeg. Obviously, Winnipeg up 3-0. They had an OT winner in Game 1. Game 2, they win by a goal, and then in Game 3,
4-1 with 9 minutes left.
Yeah, Game 3,
and they lost
4-1. Slowly come back. You had Morrissey with a goal. You had a couple guys, and then Nikolai Ehlers, who's been fantastic since coming back.
Laser beam off the face-off.
Awesome shot.
Yep.
His first goal was just a roof job. He's fantastic, and they have 6 quality forwards in that top 2 lines, and they can compete offensively with Edmonton. But they also have a goaltender, which is a big deal difference, and their defense, while not good, it's better than Edmonton's is. So
I agree. Yeah. Their defense is probably the best in the North. Currently, the best in the North. Right now,
Toronto,
out of the 4 teams. But Toronto has some solid pieces, but I think, and I include goaltending on defense. So
no, absolutely, and they have the best goaltender.
So they're down 3-0. They could get swept tonight. Their stars finally produce. They scored 4 goals, and they still lost. That's pretty telling about a lot of things. Number one, you see games 1 and 2. They scored 1 goal. And Winnipeg scored, 3?
Yep.
Right? Did they win Game 2 1-0?
No. Winnipeg won Game 1 4-1. Then they won Game 2 1-0 in overtime, and then Game 3 they won 5-4 in overtime.
All right. Well, you shut down their stars. Obviously, they're not going to win, and they made that obvious.
Yeah.
But then I think more problematic for Edmonton was the fact that they just lost this past game with their stars performing, and they still lost, which exposes their weaknesses even more so. Because you just look at how they gave it up, which questions leadership and their overall drive. I'm not saying that none of those guys cared. Maybe they thought it was in the bag and they let up a little bit. And by the time they tie it,
I think they did.
It's written in the stars. If you give up a lead that big in the third period, you're losing in overtime.
Oh yeah,
90% of the time, you're not coming back from that. You're done. Just give the overtime win to the team that came back. It's almost all the time. But I think Edmonton is so they exposed their problems in this loss with their defense and their goaltending, obviously, which it's been a problem for years now, and they have done nothing to really address it. Tyson Barrie was a good pickup in the fact that he adds to the offense and not a whole lot to the defense.
Not what they needed.
Are we going to start talking about, now we have a flat cap rate, has McDavid and Draisaitl's contract completely restricted Edmonton from making a Stanley Cup contending team?
So
I'm going
to say no, and only because these two are so otherworldly. You're talking about Crosby and Malkin when they were in their primes, that level talent. So and Crosby and Malkin did it where they put pieces around them and they made a contender. They had a goalie. Right. That's the big difference, right? Marc-Andre Fleury. If you put a goalie like Marc-Andre Fleury on Edmonton, that's a big deal difference.
Well, it was they drafted better. They drafted better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beyond McDavid and Draisaitl, I mean, who else do you have there that they drafted? I mean, Nugent Hopkins is still quality, right?
Puyarvi, if he can get his head together.
Maybe. Darnell Nurse is okay, right? He's
Yamamoto.
not bad. Yeah, Yamamoto also. I mean, they're decent complementary pieces, but Pittsburgh had. I mean, granted, Pittsburgh was just as bad as Edmonton was when they were as bad as they were in getting all those draft picks. It's not like Pittsburgh was. I mean, yeah, they got a lot of high draft picks, almost similarly to Edmonton, except not as many number one picks. But I mean, they drafted Crosby, Stahl, and Malkin basically 3 out of 4 years, I think, or 3 straight years.
Too.
I don't recall.
Fleury, too, right?
Fleury was earlier. Orpik was there as well. He was drafted. Ryan Malone was great when he was there. Letang was the year. I think Letang was the year after. I think it was Jordan Stahl's draft, but he was second round or third round pick or something like that.
I thought he was.
But yeah, they drafted well. They kept the core, and obviously the core is still there, and they still have success with the exception of Fleury's not there anymore. But that was a 3-on-1 shorthanded.
Yep.
But yeah, the Edmonton doesn't have that, and they had a number 1 overall pick in Nail Yakupov, and look at him. He's long gone from the league. That's a waste. But he was pretty much considered at the time the number 1 overall pick consensus. But who would have known he would have turned out the way that he did? But yeah, they do not address their needs. And I think that's the problem.
So they
consistently don't address their needs.
Just because I am interested in this, right? So let's go
management,
to last.
Yes, management is definitely a part of the problem because they don't manage the team well. And it's GM after GM after GM. It's not just one. It's all of them. None of them have addressed the real problem. And granted, what's his name? Chiarelli with that horrible contract for goalie Koskinen.
Koskinen, Mikko Koskinen. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to do 2019 and 2020 for the drafts because young kids, Philip Broberg, Dylan Holloway, they're not going to make it up yet. But go to 2018, right? You have Evan Bouchard, who they take as the 10th overall pick, and he's still hasn't really made a big difference on defense. Ryan McLeod, another center who they traded. Go back to their first round pick in 2017, Kyle Yamamoto, who's doing pretty well. But I'm also going through their later round picks, and there's no one yet that I see as a very good player that's they taken in late round picks. You have Jessie Puyarvi, 2016, 4th overall pick. Obviously, that 4th overall pick, they could have gotten a lot of different guys in that draft that would have made a big difference. You're talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois. It was obviously Line A and Matthews go 1-2. You have Dubois goes 3, but after that, at 5, you have Olli Juolevi, who's a very good defensive prospect for Canucks. You have Matthew Tkachuk at 6, Clayton Keller at 7, Nylander at 8. He's obviously not very hasn't played very well he was Buffalo and now he's Chicago. You have Sergachev at 9, Tyson Yost at 10, Jake Bean 13, McAvoy 14. So they didn't. That's looking like a really bad pick at 4. You keep looking back, and I'm still a little bit trying to get this.
A 4th overall pick and a number 1 overall pick that are basically ending up being trash.
Yeah. It really is amazing. I mean, it's from 2016, then you go.
But also, on top of the drafting, we can go through the draft picks too, but what notable free agents have they brought in also that really made a big difference lately?
I mean, Zach Kassian,
Zach Kassian came in a trade, right? But even he's fine, right? He's fine on that line. He's on the top line with McDavid, right? Yeah. So he's fine there, but it's they don't. Do they try to go after these? There have been some pretty big free agent defensemen that have signed, as anywhere else. You look at. Granted, I don't know if any of these guys had Edmonton on their radars to sign there, but they're handcuffed with salary cap now because they have 2 massive contracts in McDavid and Draisaitl. So I don't know. I just don't I see this as being Edmonton year in and year out.
So
Like
so
where
Nugent Hopkins,
Draisaitl, McDavid. Yeah, keep going.
All right, wait, I didn't mean to cut. So Draisaitl, right, makes 8.5 for the next 4 years. That's 5 years. I think that's actually very reasonable. I think anyone would take him at 8.5.
Yes.
Connor McDavid now, he makes 12.5 for the next 6 years. Now, I'm not saying he's not worth 12.5 million. He's probably worth 15 to 20. If this wasn't, if this was the Yankees, he'd be in the 20 to 25 guy. But yeah, in a flat cap, that hurts. But I mean, you have those two guys for $20 million out of an $84 million cap. It's rough, but I would still give them that. You have Nugent Hopkins.
I'm talking about
no,
I don't blame them. I don't blame them for taking the money, but I mean, you look at some of these other stars throughout the years who have taken, your hometown discount, just a little less to make a better team.
No, I don't.
And if you want your management to ensure that you're constructing a contender every single year, you're going to have to give a little.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Nugent Hopkins, so he's a free agent at the end of this year. Someone's hurt on Florida. I didn't see. Oh, it's Sam Bennett's down. It looks like McDonough going off for a penalty.
Pool party.
Yeah, pool party.
Yeah, Crosby is the best example, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, no, he is. You got to give Crosby that, even though I don't like him just because he's a pen and he's kicked the Rangers' butts. He did a great by his team by, even 8.5, 8.7 million is still a very good chunk. It's still a good chunk of change. I mean, you can't, he's also gets a ton of money from, endorsements, and he's, Mr. Canada. Mm-hmm. But Nugent Hopkins makes $6 million.
The amount of money he could have gotten, though.
Oh,
the amount, especially when he signed that contract, the amount of money, easily.
He can make 12.5 easily. Yeah. So it looks like Marsh. Oh, it was Todd Marchmont got high sticked by Mr. McDonough. So that was a definite penalty. Like I said, Hopkins, free agent this year, he makes $6 million. This contract, James Neal, 5.75 for the next 3 years. That's bad.
Yep.
But then you look at the rest of their teams, everybody's under $3 million. Zach Kajan's $3 million. Chasson's 2.1, but he's a free agent. Yeah. On defense, they have Darnell Nurse, who has one more year left at 5.6. They have Larson, 4.1, but he's a UFA after this year. Chris Russell, that's a bad contract too. Tyson Barrie, 3.7. That was a 1-year deal. And then who's the guy that got hurt? Clefbaum.
Ethan Bear.
He has 2 more years. No,
Clefbaum.
He's got 1 more year, or 2 more years, 4.1 million per. Ethan Bear is 1 year remaining at $2 million. But yeah, I mean, they need defense and they need goalies. Mike Smith is not the answer. Mikko Koskinen,
they need a goaltender.
$4.5 million.
I think first they need to address the goaltending. Number one.
Yeah.
Defense, yes. Their defense is currently okay. I don't think it's horrible, but it's not great. But their goaltending is, and has been for a while, very bad.
Yeah.
And they're going to win games because they can outscore opponents. So.
Yeah. Daniel on Facebook Live asked what the problem with Canadian National Hockey League team is. They do not have talent. And they've gotten smacked around by teams like Slovakia, I think it was. US beat them, but they're just talent. These teams are bringing better players right now.
US and Canada, they're bringing young prospects, or the veterans that they bring are 3rd, 4th liners. So it's just like the United States. They brought their JV team, basically.
Yep.
And Germany. Lost to Germany, too.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
Canada.
So anyways, off of Edmonton on a Winnipeg, they've just, like I said, they have the offensive talent to play with Edmonton in a scorer's match, and then they can play a little defense, especially with their goaltender, who, like I said, he's top 2 in the league. He's probably the 2nd best goalie in the NHL behind Mr. Vasi. But yeah, I mean, you look, and I forgot to mention Spencer Knight, obviously in goal for the Panthers. He's getting rookie debut in the playoffs. It's pretty crazy.
First ever. First time ever that a goalie played in college, played for his college the same season that he's playing a playoff game.
Yeah, well, college and the national team and this team. That's crazy.
But I mean, this is the first time ever that he played for his college this season, and then goes on to play in the playoffs for the NHL in the same season. Cool. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, Spencer Knight is, American goaltender. future American goaltender. Hopefully, I mean, I hope he has it.
Yeah.
I'm getting stuff thrown at me.
Which is actually pretty impressive considering, you got other guys like Hellebuck. You have John Gibson, who I think is going to be better. Like we talked about it a couple episodes ago, U.S. goaltending looks really good, and they
has been
tops,
for a while.
Yeah, and they're the tops. I think they're the best in terms of overall talent for any nation. If you look at it, pound for pound, they're the best. Maybe Russia's close, or maybe they overtake
Russia's coming. Yeah, they're coming into their own. Russia. They never were, but now they're producing some really solid goaltending.
If you look at the top five nations, right? Finland, U.S., Canada, Sweden, and Russia, I think Canada's the worst.
Yeah, and you're looking at Carter Hart as being like the second coming of Carey Price, right? Because Carey Price has for a long time been considered the best goalie in the league by the players. And Carter Hart was supposed to be the next one, and he just had a miserable season. Granted, the whole team did, but specifically, he did.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to. So we talked about the Oilers. We think they're done, and they have a lot of work to do over the break. We'll go back now to the other North Division. You have Toronto versus Montreal. It's tied 1-1. Canadians win the first game 2-1. Leafs come back, win 5-1. Their games tonight. It's actually already started. We said it was 0-0. I haven't turned over to that game to see what its score is currently, but the big news we had, John Tavares, that injury.
1-0 Leafs.
1-0 Leafs. Thank you, Steve. Tavares out at least 2 weeks after also injuring his knee in Game 1. He has a concussion, which he sustained in that loss. The Leafs, I think after that injury, you could see they kind of went flat. I know you have Foligno trying to fight Corey Perry after that, which I didn't like that. You could tell Perry did not go out of his way to injure him. And a lot of people don't know this. Corey Perry and John Tavares are good friends. So he's not going to go out of his way to hurt a friend. It was just unfortunate. He even tried to get out of the way. It just happens. It's one of those things. You have Foligno, trying to get his teammates going, and former captain fighting Perry. But yeah, that kind of decimated the Leafs. They come back in Game 2, and beat they're more talented. They beat a team that they should beat.
They are.
And I can see this.
I think Montreal's the worst team in the playoffs right now. Montreal and Nashville are hands down the two weakest, and Montreal is definitely the worst.
I've liked how Nashville's played, though, and we'll get into that one a little bit, but I've liked how Nashville's played against Carolina.
Me too, and UC Saros has been awesome.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. So Tavares out. I think Toronto starts to take that series a little bit more, but that's been pretty interesting how they've gone there. You look at we'll hold off on Tampa and Panthers until Schwim gets back. You want to talk your team first?
I'll keep it brief because I could go on and on about the disappointing factors of it.
So obviously Pittsburgh and New York tied 2-2. Islanders take the first game in overtime 4-3. Then Game 2, Penguins come back 2-1. Penguins then win Game 3 5-4. It's been close, other than Game 4 where the Islanders win 4-1. Today, right now, they're still tied 1-1. Or it's 2-1, sorry.
2-1 right? Pittsburgh. Yeah.
2-1 Pittsburgh.
2-1 Pittsburgh. End of second just ended right now.
So give me your analysis on this one.
So I think this is the series is playing out, I think, basically how everybody expected it. Like, this is going to go 6 or 7 games. Everyone pretty much knew it was going to happen. We actually, not to go to a different series, but I kind of thought the same for the Boston-Washington series. Yeah. Even though I will say, I thought Washington was probably the weakest of the 4 that was coming in, and kind of showed. But we'll talk about that series. But yeah, this one I expected exactly this. Barry Trotz, of course, he knows how to play the Penguins. Penguins are high skill, fast, and he's able to neutralize them with suffocating defense, clogging the middle, clogging the neutral zone, creating havoc in the breakouts. I think Game 4. They and he executed it to perfection. They played essentially a flawless game as far as Barry Trotz's system goes. Yeah. I don't think they could have done it any better than they did, even though some of the goals were pretty lucky, but you need luck to win, and they basically controlled Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh really didn't have a whole lot of golden opportunities. Sorokin has played well, although I thought he had last game pretty easy. Didn't have to really move a whole lot, just as long as he stopped the shots that he was supposed to stop, and he did. And that was a great game. The game before, of course, got a little bit out of hand between the raucous crowd at Long Island, which was awesome, by the way. How loud they were and how into it they were, closing out Nassau this year. So I thought Pittsburgh, again, was the much better team in that game. Certain moments got away from them, and it was just, again, officiating. And I don't want to beat a dead horse with this officiating stuff, but it seems like they're letting the goons be goons, and then they're just calling the retaliations. And I was talking about this last night with some of the hockey guys, that specifically that instance where the entire line of Crosby, Rust, Gensel, Dumoulin, and Letang were all in the box at the same time. There was muggings that happened between, you have to excuse me, I don't remember the players, but I think it was Mayfield cross-checking Crosby in the back of the head, Dumoulin being put in a chokehold, and throughout the whole scrum, where most of it was started from those players like the Matt Martins and the Cal Clutterbucks, the Islanders got a power play, and I just from something like I don't get it, the inconsistencies of the refereeing, and it's not just in this series. I'm not going to be a homer and say that it's just the series that the refereeing is a problem.
Panthers, Tampa Bay.
The Panthers,
really
Tampa
bad.
is also bad. It's been pretty bad across the board, and it all started. And I hate going back to this incident, but it seemed like they set a precedence at the Tom Wilson incident against the Rangers, and it's been basically protecting the goons.
Which has
and
been
penalizing anybody that retaliates. So the only time they're going to call a penalty, they might call both. But they're not calling the initial ever.
No,
they'll only call the retaliation only, or they'll call them both because the one guy retaliated, and then they'll call the other one. And that's a problem. Because you see them out there in the games, and they're just having their way with the star players.
I don't know. And like I said, it's crazy because then the Department of Player Safety gives Kadri an 8-game suspension, and you're like, where did this come from? All of a sudden, you actually give, what should have been given. It's so dumb. I don't know.
You know what? I said, my analysis from that suspension, even though I agree with it because I friggin' hate those hits. I hate them.
Yeah.
The Department of Player Safety will protect the goons, somebody like Tom Wilson, but the dirty players, those sneaky little dirty players like Kadri, who you wouldn't call him a goon, he's just dirty. They'll throw the book at him. They'll bring down the hammer and suspend him for as long as possible. But plays like what Tom Wilson does, or players like him, they're gonna let him get away with it because that's the type of player that George Parros was, and George Parros was in charge of going after a guy like Nazem Kadri.
Yeah.
Although he will sympathize with somebody like Tom Wilson, for instance.
Yeah. I mean, it's so dumb. They just need someone from the outside that comes in. They don't need a player. They need someone that just.
They need somebody who's going to protect the players. That's the whole point of the Department of Player Safety. It's not the Department of Player Safety isn't there to, give the offender a break and to figure out how are we gonna punish this guy, but not really punish him to the point where it's unnecessary. He just hurt a player, and somebody's career is going to be ended, and they're going to give him 5 games.
I mean, and that's as much as I hate James Dolan, the one good thing he did was announce, have that statement go out, basically saying that George Parros should be fired.
And I think probably the entire league agrees. Yeah. But no one, obviously there's a reason why nobody makes the public statements because of what happened afterwards. But it's but enough of getting caught up on this play again. I feel like we cover this a lot, and it's frustrating, but it's easy to talk about. But
well, it is. It's frustrating as a fan because you see bullshit happen when we just want to see fun hockey, right? You want to see guys going around. Yeah. You want to see the big hits because the big hits do, they do look awesome, and some of them are really good and fair and legit within the rules, and that's just kind of the outcome. But you want to see scoring like a lot of what's happened in the Toronto in the Winnipeg Edmonton series has been fun because it's been very back and forth in one game, and then the other games you have very tight checking. It just that's how it goes. But are you good with your Pittsburgh analysis? Do you have anything else on that?
No, I mean this game is completely dominated so far by Pittsburgh, which worries me because so often all it takes is one chance because they only have two good. I don't remember what the shot count was. It was something like 20-2 in that period. I can get the stats for you now.
20-2. Tom said before.
Yeah, 20-4. So shots are 20-4 in the second period, and Pittsburgh scored once. So amazing. The fact that it's only a 1-goal game, I mean, they could outscore them in the next period 15-1, and that one shot goes in, and it's a tie game.
Yep.
So
no, exactly.
I don't like games like this. Sorokin's playing very well. It looks like it does look like Pittsburgh has broken this defensive shell of the Islanders a little bit in this game, so hopefully they can keep going. But I think, like I said, I didn't want to go on too long about this, but it's going as exactly how I thought it would go. I think Pittsburgh is the more talented team and the deeper team, although with Barry Trotz and his system, you can never count them out, and this is exactly what I expected. I don't know. We'll see how this game goes.
Yep. One thing I forgot to mention in the Toronto-Montreal series, Montreal finally dresses Cole Caulfield and Koten Kanyemi. I don't really know what they were trying to do in the beginning when they would sit their young guys for vets and guys that they think can help them out now. I would have played the young guys from the get-go, but that's just me.
Yeah, I would have too. Because it's like, what are you playing for, Montreal, right? Like, I don't. If you're constructing a lineup, nobody thinks you're going to win. I mean, maybe you can upset them in some sort of crazy occurrence, but
because
get
those
kids in. Yeah, because it's Toronto, and you have Carey Price who could steal a series. But get the kids in, get them experience, and if you lose, like, no one is going to be surprised, and it's all positives for these young kids. If they lose, it's probably even better because now they know what to expect in the playoffs. They've experienced losing. They probably are going to hate it a whole lot, and it's going to get them more motivated for the next season to not lose in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Instead, you're going to – I mean, now I think Cole Caulfield's in today, right? I think there's Eric Stahl is out.
Yep.
Kotkaniemi was in last game, right, I believe.
Yep. Yeah,
maybe.
Caulfield. I mean, and
so now
it
seems like they're making their way in, but – why they didn't start, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, when Caulfield skates the puck, he's electric. He's a good skater. He's got obviously a nice shot. But anyways, enough about the Canadians.
He's supposed to be there for the long haul, so why not?
All right, let's talk about the two series that are over. Capitals and the Bruins. Mm-hmm. Capitals take game one in an overtime, very good overtime game. They win 3-2. Then Bruins just come on, and they come on big time. Bruins win, 4-3 in game two. They win 3-2 in game three, both on overtime wins.
Yeah, that could have went the other way. Imagine.
Well, it could have, but I mean, did you see the whole Ovechkin thing with Samsonov, where he basically tells them, "Don't go to sleep, bitch."
and screaming at him in Russian.
That's your captain. That's telling your goaltender, even though he misplayed a puck, which I actually blame the defenseman more than I blame the goalie on that one. But
it was a miscommunication. So, I mean, you can blame whoever you want to. They're both kind of partially at fault there. But even so, like, that's your goalie, Yeah. I mean, I think they probably have a different type of relationship because I think those the Russian crew over there in Washington are very close, obviously, from that first COVID thing that happened. But but still, I mean, goaltenders, I mean, I don't want to paint the picture that goaltenders are just like, well, everybody knows, I guess, that goaltenders are head cases. It just kind of is natural. It's like, why would you be a goalie, right? Unless you're crazy. But, I mean, a play like that, you have to be in your goaltenders, but to just like so publicly, in front of the cameras and everything, just laying into them.
Yeah. Don't go to sleep, bitch. Don't go to sleep, bitch.
Yeah, I mean, it was in Russian, so I guess he was hoping that nobody would understand him. But there was
plenty of Russian lip readers. Yeah, lip readers. Oh man, that was good. And I understand.
He's a UFA. Ovechkin's a UFA, and this just happened. They basically just got swept. It's the third straight season they lost in the first round, and Ovechkin is a UFA. So now, where does Washington go from here?
Tom says Cap's got like $9 million to sign Samsonov and Ovi.
Well, Ovi, I would assume Ovi wants to retire at Capital, and he's probably going to sign a short-term contract for a lot less than what he's making now.
Well,
because even though like you look at how, you think he's gonna go for the biggest possible contract.
I was listening to the podcast today. Friedman thinks he could get double-digit in the millions by 4 years.
By Washington, because Washington can't afford that.
By Washington, so I don't know what they're going to get rid of, but that's what they're used saying that they.
Well, I think they're banking on Kuznetsov or I think they should bank on Kuznetsov, but TJ Oshie could actually be the one out.
Which is crazy because I like Oshie and he's a much better player and he deserves to have the contract.
Way more important to that team, I think. As far as like a heart and soul type guy, I'm not a huge TJ Oshie fan based on a lot of the stuff he does on the ice, but I do think he's a great player. Yeah. And I think he is very important to that team right now. But I mean, like we were talking about, there's that Russian connection that they have, that core of guys and some of them just can't get there. Like Kuznetsov,
he needs to be
very talented, right? He's a really, it's almost like, is he another Alex Semin?
Yeah,
I think Alex Semin was very talented in, scoring goals, but you just couldn't get the guy to take anything. You couldn't get the guy to care.
What were the two brothers? I know you talked about them. What were the two brothers? One played for Montreal, one played for Nashville.
Yeah, the Sergei and Andre.
Kostitsyn.
Kostitsyn, yeah.
Yeah. They weren't as good as Kuznetsov, but it's same thing. You have that same kind of mentality where it's like that lazy, enigmatic Russian. Yeah.
Who's and what's his name? Radulov was like that when he first came into the league as well.
Yeah.
He's since changed, but it's just like every night it's like, who are you going to get? He missed the start of the playoffs also.
Yep.
But it was just like, Semin played the bongos on Stahl the one time.
He slapped the shit out of him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but it's. I mean, they need to do something about that. I mean, if you're gonna lose somebody, I think he's someone to lose. But I mean, if you're keeping Ovi, if you're keeping Dmitry Orlov, if Samsonov is your goalie, and they really like Kuznetsov, is management just going to be like, screw you guys, we're trading him because we can? And are they going to care? Or are they basically, the ones calling the shots and be like, no, he's our friend, he's not going anywhere?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Captain Chara, the handshake line was very good. Him getting hugs from all his former teammates. He was getting angry at some of the Bruins though in that series. It was kind of fun to watch because angry Chara is someone you do not want to mess with. Because he just, Olympic, Greco-Roman wrestles you and you're down. But yeah, just the Bruins.
Who has the money to sign Ovi? Which is an interesting question. But the crazy thing is that no one is talking about it because no one ever thought it would ever come to that point where Ovi would sign somewhere else. I don't know if the discussion is going to start to come saying that like, hey, this team has all this money. Are they going to try and throw a contract at Ovi?
Yeah.
I don't know. The Devils do. Would he sign with the Devils? I mean, probably not. But
it'd have to be a contender, and I don't know. I mean, could he go to someone like the Avalanche?
He has a cup.
I guess
he has a cup, so I assume he wants more. But he could also just get max value for the last couple of years before he ships back off to Russia. But I do think he wants to keep chasing this record. So
yeah, I agree too. So that's the Bruins Caps. So bye Caps. In that Central, we have the Canes and Nashville 2-2. Both teams winning at home. Game 5 is tomorrow. I watched the Predators Canes game on Saturday. It was a lot of fun. In double overtime, you have Luke Kunin just left unmarked, cuts right to the net, gets the pass, and pots it home.
And then destroys his teammate celebrating.
Yeah, he jumped. That guy just got messed up. I don't know who it was, but yeah, he destroyed him.
I think it was Game 5. Carrier.
Game 5, you finally have Duchesne and Johansson, show up in the series, and Duchesne gets the winner on a breakaway. It was like partial breakaway.